Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another this and that. And for those of you who are new, this is basically just a semi-weekly vlog that I do to let you know what's going on around here in Rain Country. But just understand, these videos are usually shot about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time because I like to keep my videos ahead in case of an emergency, or I just am too busy and cannot keep up on making videos. So I always stay ahead, and the ones that aren't as important to get out right away are the ones that get pushed out farther, and these are some of them. But the purpose of them is not just to show you what I'm doing, but to help direct you back to videos I may already have out on these, to show you some experiments I'm starting, or to give you updates on ongoing experiments. So let's get busy and talk about what's going on, starting with the dehydrated chicken. So I have dehydrated chicken in the past, but I hadn't preserved it, like put it up on the shelf. I'd only done a little bit, and it was so good. Something about taking cooked chicken and then dehydrating it makes it really crispy and so tasty that is actually hard to not just want to eat it all. But the thing is, we've got our freezers pretty full, and every time we see the good organic, the ones I trust, the organic, free range, yada yada yada, chickens on sale at our local store, we will stock up on all they have when they're marked $2 off. And I'm running out of space to do that. So what I've been doing the last couple days is taking out some chickens, thawing them out, baking them in the solar oven out on the deck, because we've actually had some nice days. Even though today is July 26th, you'll be seeing this probably closer to the end of August. Hopefully by then we'll have some regular nice weather, which is usually the way it is. This is my first year actually preserving it this way. However, I feel pretty confident it will last just as many years as my jerky has, and as many years as I believe the dried ground beef is. So this was also my first year to dry the ground beef and to put it into storage. I've been very happy with that. I do have a video I did on dehydrating the ground beef and how I do it that I will link to in the description box down below. Don't forget to click on show more, or that little gray arrow off to the side there if you're on a smart device, certain smart devices anyway. I know there's various ways to open up the description box, and it's going to depend on the device you're using. Let me talk just a little bit how I did it. I did it pretty much the same way I did the ground beef, but I didn't bother to rinse it. So I just, like I said, I baked up the chicken, the whole chicken, in the solar oven. And then what we didn't get eaten, I picked all the meat off the bones and then used the bones to make the broth, and then just laid the meat out onto the fabric that I made, the cloth covers, to go on my dehydrator racks. And that's going to be best no matter what, whether you got stainless steel, plastic, no matter what dehydrator you have. I recommend making some cloth covers to put over the racks first, because that's going to do two things. It's going to help soak up any excess moisture and prevent any smaller pieces from coming through, because that's going to happen with your ground beef and even with the chicken, because once it dries it can flake up really small, and so that's going to keep all that from falling through. And ever since I've done that, I've been very happy with that. So if you're interested in how I made the cloth covers for my Nesco, I will go, and I also talk about the square ones. I will go ahead and link to that video in the description box down below as well. But anyway, like I said, put it on there. Now I turn the heat up to 115 degrees on my Nesco dehydrators. I don't like going past 115 degrees. I find that I'm more likely to have the trays warp on me, which makes me think there could be other issues that may happen. So 115 is good, but the chicken and the ground beef both dry in probably, I would say, about 10 hours, if I'm just guessing, but it's also going to depend on how thick your pieces are and how high or low you have the temperature. But I do find that 115 will work good. But if you also live in an area with high humidity, it can also take longer when you do that. But if you're in a very dry climate, unlike us, it might dry even faster. So then after that, after it's fully dry, I just put it in the jar, and then I vacuum seal it using the pump that comes with the brake bleeder. And I have all kinds of videos showing how I do this. I will link to one of them down below. One thing I do want to mention here that I haven't said in my other videos on this is that I do actually now, since this has been well used for the past 4 years, and it's not properly calibrated, I don't even pay attention to really where the needle ends up at. I just pump it until the needle stops moving, even if it's way over here. So I just keep pumping it, and once I pump it to a point where it doesn't want to go any higher, then I know for sure it's well sealed, and that's what I did here. And then I do like to put the bands on. Now, one question I get asked a lot is, do you use oxygen absorbers or anything like that? I personally do not. I have not yet seen the need for those, but it is a matter of choice. If it makes you feel more secure to throw those in there and then vacuum seal it, go right ahead on it. It's not going to hurt anything to do that. I just prefer to not have to bother with oxygen absorbers and buying them and using them and all that. But anyway, so how I plan to use this, now to keep in mind, I haven't tried it yet, but I do believe this will work really good in adding to things that's especially going to have any kind of sauce base. So, for example, making a chicken fettuccine. What I would do with this, instead of adding the pre-cooked chicken from that had been cooked maybe a couple days prior like I normally would, what I would do in this case, when I'm using this, I would add it with the rest of the herbs and spices and everything else that I'm putting in there, so it can actually cook in the sauce. So instead of having to rehydrate it in water or something like that, I would just rehydrate it in the cooking process. And also, if you're vegan or you're just dairy free, I do have a video on how you can make your own white sauce, whether it be a fettuccine sauce, which is what I did in that video, or any other kind of white based sauce with a nut milk. You can do that, and I will link to that video in the description box down below if you're interested. So anyway, that's what I would do with this. It would also obviously be very good added directly to soups. If you're wanting to make some kind of chicken noodle soup or chicken with rice soup, you can just throw it in there. Chances of me doing that though are slim, because usually when I make a chicken bone broth, I turn it right away into a soup, and then I always make sure there's bits of chicken left on those bones, so it already has chicken in it. So mostly I'm looking at using this in something where if I don't just snack on it, then I would use it in something that's already got some kind of sauce going in it. Another great idea would be chicken enchiladas or any other kind of meal that you're going to make that's going to have some kind of sauce. Then you just throw the chicken in there just like you would with the dried ground beef, and then let it cook, and it will rehydrate and turn out really, it should turn out good. I don't know yet with the chicken. I know the ground beef turns out great. I love it. We'll find out with the chicken. This is the jar I use to store the cinnamon sugar. This is the one that we keep in here. So I mix up a big batch in about a half-gallon jar, one about this size here, of cinnamon sugar, so that I can at least have a quart. And then I'll put it in this and then keep it in the back pantry. And then when this gets low, because Patrick likes cinnamon sugar on his oatmeal and his other hot cereals that I make for him, because I do have that recipe out there for how you can make your own like cream of wheat type cereal using whatever grains you want. Even if you want to go, if you're gluten-free, you can use other types of grains. It's a super easy process. I'll go ahead and link to that down below. But anyway, I'll do that. I'll make a cream of wheat cereal, and then he likes to use this in there. But I like to keep the smaller jar in here because it takes up less room in the kitchen. So what I'm going to do, since I got to fill this up again, is I'm going to try making it with a combination of the organic cane sugar and the organic coconut sugar, and then add the cinnamon to that. Maybe I did that before, I don't remember, but looking at the color of this, I don't think I have. But I do try to find ways to get other types of sugar that have high mineral content, like your coconut sugar does, or even your jaggery. I thought about the jaggery, but because the consistency of it, I don't think it's going to work as well. So I'm going to do a half and half blend of that, the coconut sugar and then the organic cane sugar, and then add my cinnamon to that. And that way it's just handy that way. It's just ready to go. Or if you like to make cinnamon toast. Now I do have a video out there somewhere about making your own cinnamon sugar, but it's super easy. You just put it in a half-gallon jar or whatever size jar. Maybe you only want a pint-sized jar ready to go. Then mix it in a a quart jar and fill it only halfway up with your sugar, and then add the amount of cinnamon that sounds right to you. So maybe for a pint, I might put about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons. Basically what I do is I put the cinnamon in and I just shake it up until it looks right. So that's what I do when I'm using the bigger jar. Put the dry ingredients in, shake it real well, and then put it in the smaller jar for storage. So I got to get a clean half-gallon jar out to do that, assuming I still have one, because I have so much vinegar going. This isn't all of it. The rest of it is in the other room, and then I have a bunch of vinegar that's finished and stored in half-gallon jars. I'm going to need more half-gallon jars. So speaking of vinegar, let me go ahead and talk about this. Remember, today that I'm shooting this is actually July 26th. So these 2 peach vinegars were only started this past week. Now the peach canning video, what I did with peaches, that was one of the videos I made sure to publish sooner because I want to make sure I get it out there why people have the peaches coming in. But anyway, you can see there are 2 different colors here. This one here is my rose marshmallow vinegar, one of them. But I got another one back there, and I'm going to be moving those back into the other room too, so I can have more room on my counter again. That's why I try not to have too much out here. I like to have at least one, because it reminds me to not only stir this one, but to go in the other room and stir them as well. But anyway, these were made the same day. Now the difference in color is because this one has mostly peach peels in it, where this one has mostly the pits with a few peels in there. So because I started this one first, I was only going to do one. Then I decided to go ahead and do another one. So that's why this one had more peels in it. Because then I had been taking most of the peels to make that peach rhubarb vanilla butter that I made, which turned out really good. And it turned out a little thicker than I thought it was going to be. As you can see in this picture right here where I put it on a biscuit. Love the flavor of it. I did talk about it in that video, the peach one, about how I made it, but I don't have any set recipe because when I'm doing stuff like that, I make it up as I go. But if you're curious how I did it, I did explain it in there. I'll go ahead and link to that video down below. So anyway, yes, you can use the pits, and don't worry about the peach kernel and the cyanide that's in there leaching through and making your peach vinegar toxic. I've been making peach vinegar for many years using the pits and the peels and have never had any issues. Now, I did just do a video that I will also link to down below about peach kernels and can you eat them. I'll give you the answer here, yes, but I do recommend you watch that video to learn more about it. And so I'm not going to go all to great detail here. Make sure you check that video out. But yes, they are safe to eat as long as you are careful and do so in moderation. I will link down below to one of my vinegar making or even a vinegar Q&A video down below so you can check that out and learn how to make vinegar. Okay, so moving on. Right here is my second big jar of home milled cornmeal. Now I got the white cornmeal, especially non-GMO white cornmeal, is really hard to find anywhere. And so what we did was we bought some whole white corn from Azure Standard and have been grinding it up ourselves on our Country Living grain mill. So you do have to have the special corn and bean auger with that, which ours came with. I always have the Country Living grain mill that we bought linked down below. I believe the Country Living grain mill is actually made, I think that's the one that's actually made in my own state. What I've been doing, because you have to change the auger out between, you know, from the one I use normally for grinding wheat or spelt with to the other one, because it's a little bigger, it's got more space, so it makes it easier to grind the corn. I decided to grind up a whole bunch. So I have 2 of these jars like this right now, and I don't know how to change out the auger yet because Patrick's already done that, so I need to have him change that out. But I figured I'd be nice so he doesn't have to change it as much and grind up a whole bunch. So I have 2 of these Fido jars full of pre-ground white cornmeal. And why white? Well, because Patrick was raised by a Tar Heel, and so when we make beans and cornbread, it has to be white cornmeal for that. And so that was something I had to learn because, you know, I grew up here in Washington State. I didn't know anything about that. I always thought all corn was yellow and all cornmeal was yellow. And the only cornbread I ever had was actually more of what Southerners would probably call Johnny cake, with the sugar and it's big and fluffy, unlike the flatter and crispy bottom, not sweet, white cornbread that's usually served with beans. Okay, so moving on to another topic here that's totally unrelated to the others. I have recently started 2 jars, in fact, of infused oil. So it's only been going for a few days. So the color isn't, it's actually stronger than what you would expect, but there's a reason why. And this one, I've decided to really up my game on the muscle rub. So this is going to be for the muscle and joint rub like I have right here. And I have a recipe on this. It's old. The color, the lighting and everything's going to be a little dark. But if you'd like to see how I made that, I'll go ahead and link to that down below. But the difference in this one is I have added some dried Arnica flowers, sadly not from my own garden, but they are organic. I am growing Arnica this year, but I don't have any flowers yet. I'm guessing I might not even see any until next year. But I did get some from Amazon Subscribe and Save. And so I've got about 1 part of those in there. The other part is my own homegrown organic comfrey that I've dried myself, because both of these are really good for sprains and bruises and sore muscles and stuff like that. So I decided, instead of just using the red pepper, which I also have red pepper flakes in here, I wanted to make a good strong oil that had those great herbs infused in there. And then hopefully next year I'll be getting enough Arnica flowers of my own that I can use those when I do my next batch. And I almost forgot to say, one of the reasons this already has so much color to it, even though it's only been a few days, is because I still had some just regular old red pepper oil. And I added that I infused myself. Then what I did was I topped them both off the rest of the way with the avocado oil, which is what I prefer to use, but you can use grapeseed if you would like. You can even use olive oil, especially if you're not keeping it in a really warm place, because olive oil can go rancid. This is why I prefer avocado oil, because sometimes when I'm infusing stuff, I try to keep it in a really warm place. Like in the wintertime, it'll be close to the wood stove. In the summertime, sometimes I'll even stick it out in the greenhouse so it can get nice and warm and help it to infuse better and faster. But you also don't want to overheat it either, because if it gets too hot, you could damage the benefits of the herbs. Anyway, that's what this is going to be used for, is our joint and muscle rub, because, you know, both Patrick and I have back injuries. Mine's in my upper back, his is in his lower back, and we tend to aggravate them from time to time. So you use it on that. I tend to get a lot of issues with my wrist with all the sewing I do, so I like to have something to rub on there. Or even on my shoulders when I get really stressed out and they get tight. So it's really nice having these oils. So I do, by the way, add some menthol crystals and some other essential oils to the finished product. Once it's all done infusing, then I add those in. And again, you can check out that video down below to see what I use in my muscle rub. All right, I got a couple more things to talk about. One is the Jet Fueled Latte. Now, some of you who are new may have never heard of this before, and I haven't talked about it in a long time because I got sort of burnt out on it, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I mean, I like it when I'm in the mood. And so I just went back to drinking coffee in the morning. Now, I don't need coffee. I don't need anything to make me energetic. I'm naturally an energetic person. I just like coffee in the morning. I like some kind of hot drink in the morning, and I like herbal teas in the afternoon and evening. That's just my thing. Now, what I did for a long time, especially when we first started taking ourselves off the thyroid medication, is I quit drinking coffee altogether for a while and went with my own recipe of my Jet Fueled Latte blend. And actually what I do is I usually keep 2 full quart jars made up and then have one that I'm working through. When this one gets emptied out, then I'll make another quart jar, so I always have plenty to work through. But anyway, this blend was one of the things that helped. It does give you a lot of energy, I tell you, but I just drank it more for the benefits of the ingredients that I used in here, rather than it just being an energetic kind of thing. And it was one of those things that really helped boost our thyroid and got us away from the medications altogether. So if you're interested in how I made this and how I make this blend and my own recipe, I will go ahead and link to that video down below. Now, just keep in mind, the spice blend I made that I used in this is a very spicy. Some people tried it and said it was way too hot for them. So remember, any of my recipes, you should adjust them to suit you, especially anything involving cayenne pepper. If you can't handle it hot, don't put it in there. It doesn't have to be in there. Or use much smaller amounts than I do. You got to taste things and try it. If you want to start with my base recipe, I still recommend starting with smaller amounts when you're talking about the cayenne pepper, because I do tend to put in probably a little more than maybe the average person. Maybe not enough for somebody else. It's all a matter of choice, and that's what I try to make clear in any of my recipes that I do of anything. Pretty much it's a matter of choice, a matter of taste, and a matter of what suits you and your health needs. And then the last thing right back here, I have another jug of mead going. I've already strained out the other ones and have them ready for either using for the various things I use homemade wine for, whether it be making extracts for flavoring or extracts for medicine, or just cooking with. I use it for cooking quite a bit. But one of the main things is also I like to use it to barter. So we got a lot of fishermen around here. We get lots of steelhead and salmon. And so I'll be using that for bartering. This one back here is strawberry. And again, I tried using some freeze-dried. Even though we got a fairly decent amount of strawberries from our own garden this year, I wanted to save them for something else and try the freeze-dried again. And these are the freeze-dried organic strawberries I got from Mother Earth Products. Yes, they do carry organic strawberries. You just have to catch it at the right time. Somebody said, no, they don't carry them. Well, they do. They come and go because they sell out quickly because they're a popular item. So you have to keep checking. But anyway, yes, I have the organic freeze-dried strawberries, and that's what I used in that. So we'll see how the strawberry mead turns out with that. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that video for this week, and don't forget to check out the video links I'll be putting down below. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.